Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from the past, today, and also to the future. Also like to acknowledge Honourable James Marape, ministers, members of Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. What we're going to talk about today is, everyone's heard about nation building in PNG. It is absolutely essential, it's critical, and what we're going to go through is some of the key building blocks about that. So when we call true nation building, it'll become apparent. Standard disclaimer, we're a publicly listed company. So what we're going to cover off today is that we have a world-class lime and cement project. We have funding of debt and equity in place announced. The quicklime operation we're going to talk about, and I'll give you a little bit of an understanding of the usage of quicklime, is largely scalable, and also how that then progresses into the bigger cement operation. The strategic location of this site will become very apparent for those that don't know about the project. And we've had the support of the PNG government for a true nation building project in the country, and our board and management, some of here which are in the front row with me today, which I thank greatly for. But let's just start off. When we talk about nation building, what are we talking about? What actually builds a nation? What do you use? Iron, cement, lime, and power. If you don't use those things to build a nation, what are you using? Wood? That's not going to build a nation. Now, Papua New Guinea has been using these things, all of these things. Doesn't have enough of this, as we all know. This has been used, but guess what? It's coming from imports. It's coming at a much higher price, and it's coming where all the jobs and opportunities and benefits in manufacturing those products are with other countries that should be in Papua New Guinea. So that's what we're going to cover off today. The location we're going to be talking about is the Central Cement and Lime Project, right next to the Exxon facility, 24 kilometres from Port Moresby. There's an opportunity here to start with the Cement and Lime Project under our fully permitted project, also with a SEZ. Minister Mayur gave some commentary about that in his speech on the opening day. I think one of the things of nation building I'd also like to talk about is the confidence and comfort that we have with the words that came from Honourable James Marape when he acknowledged and the need for lime and cement in the country. These statistics give a clear indication where you can see the GDP per capita of nations, and you can see the GDP and the consumption per kilogram. You can see PNG's at the very bottom for power consumption and also cement consumption. Now, if you look at 50 years on, the government is now working extremely hard to catalyse change. And that catalysation of change is coming about by coming up and being able to have iron, able to have cement, installing more power. Without that, we have reliance on imports. We have foreign currency wealth leakage because we have to pay in US dollars to go offshore to buy those. We have a major employment loss and loss to generate export earnings, because it's not just about import displacement, we also can then manufacture abroad. And export abroad. So this just gives a quick overview of our portfolio. The centre of our discussion today is going to be around lime and cement. These red dots here are where we have iron deposits, iron sands. So when I talked about iron to build a nation, a lot of work's been done on those projects over the last 10 years. And then carbon, and the ability to offset our emissions, not by having to go offshore and buying carbon credits, but actually utilising those that are generated within Papua New Guinea, where landowners get far more benefit versus the forests being cut down. So where are we at with our projects? This is at a very high level. With concept, pre-fees, bankable, ready to build on the iron, the cement and the lime. And I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail on this, but there's discussions with government. There is power ships that can be fired by Papua New Guinea LNG that are already built that can come into Papua New Guinea. New Caledonia is using them. Lots of developing nations have started using this technology. The difference here, these ships are built and ready to go versus waiting for a 3-year construction timeframe. This just talks about value add. Some people get confused with limestone, quick lime, hydrated lime, cement. Limestone as a raw material has very little value. You process it in manufacturing quicklime and you get over 10 times in value add. And that's what the government is wanting to do, value add downstream process. Similarly with cement. So via the SEZ initiative mobilising FDI, which the PNG government has now successfully started doing, and through the rock to road policy of downstream processing raw materials in the ground and utilising immediate power, these are going to be the benefits. 100% DMO for lime and cement and iron, export the surplus. Thousands of jobs will be kept on shore, spin-off job businesses will be created, landowner equity options and ownership opens right up, which I'll talk about in a moment. But let me just first talk a little bit about lime. Quicklime gets used in so many different things. It gets used in the gold industry, in the alumina sector. It gets used in critical minerals. We heard the Senator on Monday talk, the Australian Senator Ayres talk on Monday about critical minerals. PNG is set perfectly as the closest #1 importer of quicklime. Copper, rare earths, cobalt, nickel. Very, very difficult for those metals and critical minerals to be processed and made without the utilisation of quicklime. So it's got to come from somewhere. So there's a big opportunity there, not just for Australia, but also within PNG. Lots of gold mines in PNG. We've just heard from the country head of Ramu Nickel around what its current operations is and its plans for expansion. All that will need quicklime. But then you look at the other sectors, these other areas, as a commodity goes, it's a very good product that gets used across the various sectors. So then if we actually have a look and we look at, okay, based on those things, where are we at with the project? What does it look like? As I mentioned, it's fully permitted and approved. This gives you a schematic layout of what's being developed here at Point Kiddo. ExxonMobil, as I mentioned before, is just over on the other side of Caution Bay. The wharf is already under construction. You see stage 2 here. This is being built at the moment on top of what you're seeing here, and that's 3/4 finished. That's going to enable rock exports to be sent all around Papua New Guinea. This additional wharf here will then be set up for ocean-going vessels. Those ocean-going vessels would not only provide product to the likes of Lihir, Madang, etc., all around those islands, and where there's other uses for Wafi in the future in Lae, but these ships will also sail to Australia. They'll also sail to New Caledonia. So there's a great opportunity here in relation to setting up an import displacement business that also creates manufacturing jobs. And I think that's been the focus of the Marape Rosso government, is to ensure that downstream processing occurs to satisfy internal need, but then there's an export business that's going to bring additional revenue, jobs, and have things created in that manner. I'm not going to go into all the detail, but the key takeaway here is from your detailed design to your commissioning, which we're expecting to start early next year in addition to the wharf, it's an 18-month time frame. I like the saying, a picture tells 1,000 words. When people say PNG is ideally located, look at the location. This is where cement and lime imports are coming from, into PNG, but also into Australia. Look how close PNG is, obviously to service its own needs, but then also looking far more abroad to actually service the east coast and west coast of Australia, which is a massive importer of cement and lime. Those unique characteristics of wharf, trucking, etc. Just to give you an example, with quicklime, currently quiclime's imported into PNG, it's trucked 180 k's inland to the ports in Malaysia and then goes 6,000 kilometres to the country. That will then be displaced. This gives you a schematic of diagrammatically on a map where things will go. The domestic route, 100% DMO first, and then the surplus is exported to various locations, New Caledonia, Australia, and even backloaded into Indonesia, who have a massive demand for nickel. Just to give you an idea, just a conceptual layout, with this area, it's very deep greenfield, so there's establishment of mine, bridge, roads, wharf, power plant, workshop, water pipeline, 2 kilns. That's 110 million US for the quicklime. The cement is another 250 million. But here is the important part. To double the capacity of this facility only requires 30 million. You don't need to build all of this again. You only need to put more kilns because you've set up the enabling infrastructure. Now, talking about cement, I mentioned that before, and what the Marape Rosso government, what the Prime Minister spoke about of making sure we can do this locally. Current situation is PNG is in the lowest quartile. To put some figures around that, 50 kilograms per capita is the usage, 250 to 700 is what we call the developing nations range, i.e. India. Now, that's where PNG's usage per capita has to go up. The usage is down around, like if you look at South Sudan, Rwanda, Somalia, etc., they're the sort of peers. So the opportunity that the PNG government has seen is huge to be able to expand, and they've been very supportive to facilitate that since we've been embarking upon this project. I think the other things to bear in mind here is you've got the likes of Wafi and K92. They're going to require shotcrete. They're going to require a lot of cement, but also a lot of lime, in addition to the existing players. The concrete roads, total cost of ownership, they last for 50 years. They are more expensive to build, but they're lower to maintain and overall safer. But it's a horse for a course. Not every single road would be a concrete road. But now that they will have access to cement a lot cheaper, there'll be a much bigger opportunity. This just gives a schematic design. I think I've already talked about this, but Australia's importing 50% of its cement needs. So on top of PNG, we have a 380 million tonne resource that's able to support PNG first and then the exports. But we want to do that on a carbon neutral basis by using originated PNG forests, getting value from the forest, keeping the value in the country. But we see that as a main opportunity. If we have a look at it, again, another map, this shows the imports from Vietnam to Japan into East Coast Australia. Now, those bilateral ties that the Australian government, PNG government are working on, there's a big opportunity for building materials to be exported, which is what we see is going to happen here. You look at 2,200 kilometres to the East Coast versus 8,000. These are the benefits that we can actually grasp. These are the benefits that we've been working on for 10 years. These are the benefits now in 2025. With the government support, we're going to make a reality. This shows where not only our domestic import displacement, but also where our export market and extra revenues coming into PNG will be. These are all the ports we've visited and speaking to customers to use that product. From an SDG point of view, obviously roads, water, power, equity ownership, improved health, education, all those things do get ticked. And in relation to what we see at Kiddo doesn't have any power, it doesn't have water, it doesn't even have a road to connect it to Port Moresby. We'll be doing these things. We've already started with putting solar in the schools, but fresh water will be brought in, roads will be brought in, but these other key benefits. So in addition to these, we've then got employment, spin-off businesses, JV contracts, training, agri-business. Compensation agreements have already been agreed, but we'll have royalties, dividends, free carried equity, paid equity, and Mayur's development grants. They're all the things the PNG government expects to see that we've been working with them on in ensuring that under this community development agreement that we've already started the consultative forum. We started that a couple of weeks ago. The draft position papers have been submitted by everyone, and we've got an agreement with the government that in January we'll be working on that together to finalise these things. So this has been a long time coming, and if you've heard me speak before, you have heard me speak about these opportunities with nation building and the opportunities for import displacement, as well as creating an export manufacturing sector. So when we look at 2025 as next steps, 2025 will be the year, what I'm calling the year of construction. Downstream processing of quicklime and manufacturing plant, extended cement production facilities, the opportunity to bring on power ships with PNG supplied gas, and the iron sands project. What will all that result in? As I started at the start of my presentation, iron, cement and power builds a nation. And that's what we're hoping to contribute to PNG, and with the help of the people who have been fantastic, the landowners, the local level government, but also importantly the state. We're honoured to be in PNG, and we'll continue on in the journey to ensure that we can build this nation with nation building materials made in Papua New Guinea. Thank you.